Life is a playground, right? I didn't see this before. I mean, if you look at life, if we cut our skin, it heals automatically with no effort on our part. Our organs work interdependently with each other. Again, no effort on our part, because life is supposed to be effortless and fun and joyful. But to me, it was always seemed like a battleground. So I was born in Kenya, and my parents brought me and my older brother here to Canada when I was the age of 11. And when I got here, I faced a deep culture shock. The system was different, the schools were different, people were different, the country was different. And almost immediately, I faced a lot of bullying that I went through in elementary school. And I didn't know how to react to this, because to me, I liked myself. So I didn't understand why others didn't. And so I was forced to choose everything else but me, because to me, what it looked like was that I wasn't enough, and that's why I was getting bullied. So I faced a lot of bullying from the age of 11 till 13. And by the time I got to high school, it got even worse. And I still didn't understand why nothing was changing. And because I didn't like that environment, I started skipping school. And by this time, it was a battle. Life was not a playground, it was a battleground for me. And as I grew up, more and more, as I left school, I connected with others that were in the same situation as me. So I related to them. And as I related to them, I felt this sense of belonging. So I chose belonging, but I didn't choose myself. Now, by the age of 16, what I didn't realize was that I had so far hidden myself away from myself and the world that I chose everything else on the path to make sure that I continue to feel belong, to make sure that I continue to feel love, everything that I was missing, or I thought so. And before I knew it, I was deeply involved in a world of crime, violence, and gang-related activities. And by the time I was 18, my best friend was shot dead. And I fell into a deep depression, not understanding why this was happening, because I thought I was choosing the right things. I was trying to fit in myself with life. And after I fell into deep depression, the only thing that made sense to me at that point was to numb myself. So I got into a lot of alcohol and drugs, because that's the only thing that had me live more. It was just about surviving. Being deeply involved in gang-related activities, violence and crime, didn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to anyone. And anyone out there doing it knows that. Now, I didn't see this, but the reason it didn't feel good is because life is supposed to be effortless. It's not supposed to be a struggle. I created my own struggles, and I created my own battlegrounds. And as I went deeper into life, I misunderstood life more and more. It was age 23, I remember getting a phone call one time at 2 a.m. in the morning that my parents' house was shot up, and they were inside. And it struck me because this was getting too close to home. To this day, I still don't know how nobody was injured from that incident. But that moment in time defined the next part of my life. Because at that moment, I started to wake up. It was almost like life was telling me, listen to me, listen to me. But I ignored it because all my life I was used to listening to everything else but myself. After that incident, I started to wake up and change my life. And it took me about 3 or 4 long years to get out of that lifestyle and get into a place where I can actually be call my life worth living. And after jumping from job to job here and there, not really feeling like life is fulfilling, I decided to get into business for myself. And at that time, it was 2007. So I chose Tim Hortons to be part of a franchise at Tim Hortons. I started working at Tim Hortons, and I did all the positions at Tim Hortons from the bottom, which was serving coffee, to becoming a baker, did all the midnight shifts, became a supervisor, assistant manager. And then Tim Hortons approved me for my own restaurant. And I opened my own restaurant in 2011, successfully. About a year in, I realized that I did not enjoy it at all. And I still didn't misunderstand life. Still didn't understand life. And what my realization was that I still hadn't chosen myself. I had chosen money, I had chosen insecurity, and I had chosen a life that seemingly would fit well. I was just basically changing the content of my life and decorating my outside and not visiting myself inside. And a year into that business, I found myself back into alcohol, working 16 to 20-hour days at Timmy's and going home and drinking it away, surviving. After that realization, I paused and I finally said to myself, maybe I don't understand how life works. And when I said that to myself, that's when my shift started to happen. Because then I was forced to choose myself. Now, I struggled a lot. It was still a battleground for me. I struggled every day to keep up to what I was not aligned to. And after a lot of courage that I had to develop, after a lot of mental and emotional courage, I decided to get out of that business, which was really hard to do. But I got out of that business not knowing what I was going to do next. Absolutely no plan. And about a year later, I realized that what I'm in love with is to help people. Because after I got out of that business, I hired a coach. And with that coaching, I was able to see that all the things I was choosing was either out of insecurity, either out of choosing my beliefs, choosing my doubts, choosing my fears. And he asked me a question. He said, in our coaching sessions, I used to show up to the coaching sessions and talk about how my life sucked. Every session. And he told me, you've told me everything you don't like about life. Can you tell me one thing that you do, please? And I thought about it for a second, and I realized that I really loved helping people. And I felt that it came naturally to me. And I thought it was me, but I realized that that is life. We are altruistic, born. Life is effortless by design. So I chose myself by giving up that business and not knowing what to do next. And about a year later, I decided that I wanted to be a coach. And the sole reason I wanted to be a coach was I wanted to help others choose themselves before it was too late. In my life, I'm really lucky to end up where I am, to avoid jail, to avoid death. Many of my friends did not avoid those two. And I consider it a real privilege right now that I get to be part of other people's lives when I can just point them back to themselves so they can choose themselves and wake up their creative potential within them. And this is what I call living a life that is a playground, not a battleground. Now these days I'm doing that for a living, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning to trust myself. I still fall away into my old thinking. But I keep nudging myself over and making sure that I'm choosing myself. Because I've realized that when you choose yourself, you're actually choosing everyone else as well. Because when you're aligned with your own values, you show up more powerfully and more respectfully to life and to everyone in your life. So if I was to leave you with one thing tonight, it would be just one sentence. Choose yourself. Because you don't know what the magic holds behind life after you choose yourself. And I'll leave you with one question as well. In reflection, what area of your life are you living in where you're not choosing yourself? Thank you.
Shenan Charania.